Hello and welcome to Plugin Along, a stream dedicated to LOTRO plugins. Last time on Plugin Along, we continued working on the Festival Buddy 2 plugin by changing the barter items window. It was showing the list of barter items in a list box, a natural idea, but we're changing it into a TreeView. And that was successful last time. So today, now that the TreeView is working, we're going to make more improvements, including that visual feedback that's customary in LOTRO with the little pluses and minuses to show that you can expand or contract a section, and saving which ones are open and closed even if we get that far. So as always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions, and in the meantime, let's move a window or two out of the way. Okay. So what we are working with is the Festival Buddy 2 plugin. We're coming up here on the Spring Festival, and I want to be done with this. So this is the Festival Buddy 2 plugin. Looks like this. And one of the things it has is, for the curious, a list, often outdated, of what things that you can purchase at a festival. So in this case, we see Cosmetics, Part 1. And before, if you didn't want to look at a section, you just had to scroll down past it. And now, collapse. Cosmetics Part 2. Nope, don't care. Part 3. Don't care. Recipes. Oh, those are interesting, but nope, can't do them. Housing items. Well, maybe. Okay, no. Housing items 2. Nope. Other. Oh, other is good. Slapperfish. Goodness. Spring Festival Steeds. Yes. Am I missing any? That's a lot of red boxes. Awesome. This is also an outdated list. Spring Festival is in need of an update. Spring Festival Steeds. Awesome. Essences, dyes, cosmetic pets. Oh, wait. That is important to me. Excellent. Gift boxes. Spring festivity token vendors. Yeah, I have everything that was in there I care about. And the curious novelties. This is based off of a different currency that you'll need to pick up a quest in Bree by the 3 Boar Fountain statue. That allows you to pick up these 3 different types of flowers that each mostly appear outside Kellamdim or Bree or the Shire? Yeah, maybe. I guess I'll find out in a month or a couple of weeks. Anyway, of note here is needing 100 of each of them for the Steed of the Jester. But once you get it, you have it forever. Snifutu says, yes, Shire. Thank you. I remember doing stuff around Mickle Delving, but I couldn't remember if that was, correct. Okay, so that's the general idea here, is being able to expand and contract these various options, just like any other list of things. Now, one thing is that these are currently centered, and maybe that's not going to make as much sense once we have a little plus minus symbol over on the left. And in other festivals, we actually have a nesting 2 deep, the vendor, and then each of the little tabs at the top. Let's go over to Yule, which does have that kind of a division. So here we have Jeffrey Bloomer, and Alex Gray, Verbena Greenhand, and the Mount Vendor. And underneath each of them, their sections are going to be expandable, contractable. And so both of these headers are centered, and maybe we'll think that's less useful once we have these little pluses and minuses on each side. Also, there is a question of if something is nested. We don't actually do expansion below the top level in Deed Tracker. Does the little plus get indented underneath it? And I'm trying to remember if there's anything in game where that would be a thing. I don't think so. Not here. Titles? Maybe in titles. Let's come take a look. No. These are all single level hierarchies. So the question is, yes, if you had nestable for categories underneath social, would that plus minus be indented? I can't think of one. Crafting. Crafting would be an obvious example. Let's bring up our crafting window. Yep, we can see it is indented by about half the width of the plus minus box. Just eyeballing it. And then what's underneath that is indented another half box. Okay. So that could be some guidance there as to how we're going to do this. We might also decide, once we don't need to visually identify that these are headers, that they don't need to be the size they are. One of the big things I was looking for is findability. Like if I'm scrolling down, I want to be able to see, oh, there, I hit the next vendor. But if we're going to be able to just be able to collapse all and open the vendor that we care about, if that's how we're searching things, then maybe we don't need this to be different sizes. Also, and I don't even think this is on my list of things to do, a search box could be fun if you're trying to find a thing. So TreeView allows us to very easily filter based off of a search criteria. ListBox probably did as well. I don't think we needed a TreeView to make that happen. But while we're ripping the rug out and changing everything, that's a thing to put in there as well. In fact, it's important enough that let's come on in here. Additional thought, add a search box, question mark. Now, I don't actually know how many users of Festival Buddy actually use the barter window, but the reason I find it useful is because it is an accurate item in game. You can do previews with it. So if I want to see what the hooded cloak of a snowy evening looks like, I can put that there. I can right click it to link it into chat and say, hey, this was available or this will be available. And so I don't like the hooded version. Let's get the rest of this outfit though. So I can very easily see what is the of a snowing evening outfit look like without doing anything. I just open up my plugin and there it is. And that probably has value to someone, but I don't know if the vast majority of users of Festival Buddy, if there are any, are even aware of this window, let alone use it that way. All right, I am curious how this colors though, now that I look at it. Oh, that's not bad. All right, of a snowy evening gets my seal of tentative approval. Let's see how orange works. Orange. I wish there was a color all pieces this button though. Preview everything orange. Okay, I'm not a big fan of the orange highlight thing here, but that's just a me thing. I think it looks good for what it is. It just doesn't appeal to me. But I probably wouldn't be caught wearing those boots anyway. I did dye the pants, right? Nope, I didn't. Okay. That doesn't really seem to be very dyed. Oh well. gnargnar says, everyone uses Festival Buddy. What are you talking about? I appreciate the confidence. Okay, so that's what we're going to focus on today. The plus minus controls, possibly with indentation for subsequent levels. Possibly changing how these headers look once we get that implemented. So how do we do this? Well, in the spirit of plugin authorship, we can always look at an existing plugin that does the thing and say, well, how did it do that? And Deed Tracker, I know, does it, and I don't remember how it does it, so I'm going to go get inspiration from Deed Tracker. So in Deed Tracker, I'm going to go ahead and squish some stuff down here. We have code. This is representing the main window here, so let's go on into the main win. And we're really just looking for the plus minus. So expand. Oh, what are we doing with that? Expand button and collapse button. Well, neat. So we have some image IDs here, and using that, we can find where it is used. And the answer is in a couple different places. Peculiar, better, reasonable. So when we are creating each of these little things, we give it a default image. In this case, we are contracted, we can be expanded. When we are updating the icon, we'll set it to either collapsed or expands. And then this one oddly does it itself instead of passing it on to a better place. That's interesting. Snafutu has to go, but hopes to be back in an hour. Well, we hope to see you. Good luck with whatever you're doing in the real world. Okay, regardless, we have the deed tab expanded is what it's called. So let's see where this is declared. Oh, right here. And little redhead waves goodbye to Snafutu. So We're making a control. We're setting it to size 16 by 16. We are setting its position in its parent window, which is this thing. This is the tree node that is going to contain the various controls in there. Yes, little one? There's a cat crying, but I don't know why. Ah, well. So, oh, gnargnar has an adjacent question. Is it possible to programmatically interact with completed quests in a similar fashion to what you have done with deeds? So, the short answer is the Lua framework does not give plugins access into the quest log, so we can't query which quests are completed, accepted, and that kind of thing. But we do get some pretty reasonable introspection into you just picked up a quest and you just completed a quest. One thing where we have a problem, though, and let's go ahead and, well, you know what? I would like to use a travel window because it's pretty cool, and I want to show off the good work they've been doing recently. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new plugin, travel window, add that in. Great. Remember that if you're running LOTRO and you add a plugin, go ahead and come into the plugin manager and refresh so that LOTRO can find it. And we're going to go ahead and change our mode to map view. Awesome. And we're also going to set it so that we hide the main window at startup. I don't think that's a good option to be defaulted, but when you're in map view. When you're just in the little suitcase view, I can understand it. gnargnar agrees the latest travel window 2 updates are spectacular. I agree. So we're taking a look at this, and we're going to go ahead and go to somewhere with just an easy quest to pick up. So we're going to go to somewhere with a mission. So I'm going to go over to, not Klager, Andrath. We're going to go over to Andrath. Fantastic. The cats are at it. And we're going to take a look at what options we have there. Oh, and I missed, gnargnar had kind words about Deep Tracker, and thank you for that. Okay, so we're going to make sure that we have, in this filter, we have quest. We do not have quest. Let's, in fact, we can't make a new tab. Oh, I have a quest tab. Haha. So what filters are here? We have quest and we have standard. Sure, let's put error in there just in case. And what are my colors? We can see that error is a different. Okay, standard is that, and quest is just slightly whiter. I feel like error should be more red. I'll make it orange. Maybe it'll stand out more to me. Okay, so we have quest and other plugin relevant things here. So what I want to see is if I walk over to the Delvin Quartermaster and, the Mission Giver, and I say I want to do Siege of Searland. Cool. Notice that we haven't seen any messages saying that I'm interacting with the character to bring up this dialogue, although plugins do know that your target has changed. So a plugin can know that I'm talking to someone that the plugin knows is a quest giver. So that could be a thing a plugin looks at, though there are thousands, if not tens of thousands of NPCs who give quests, but that can be a key. And then so we have Mission Siege of Saarland. So as soon as I accept this, we get a message in the quest channel saying new quest, Mission Siege of Saarland. Awesome. Now, of course, this is a misnomer. I have completed this quest many times. If we come in here, this is a repeatable quest that you have previously completed. But it is new to my quest, into my active section of the quest log. So it's accurate enough for these purposes. So if I come on in and then travel here, I'm going to get a inside the mission quest called new quest of Mission Siege of Searland, and that is going to be a parallel. So one of them says complete the mission, Siege of Searland, and this is how you complete the mission, Siege of Searland. So now our hypothetical quest tracker knows that we have two quests going. One of them is called Siege of Searland, and the other one's called Siege of Searland. And you can see how there's an uphill battle here if you're writing a quest tracker, because there's at least 2 quests called Mission Siege of Searland. But that's okay. We're here, and we know that a plugin can know that we left Cardalon as a regional channel instead of changing from our existing regional channel to a new one. In that case, you only get the entered. So we got a left channel, so we know we're probably in an instance. So a plugin that takes advantage of that can probably know, based on who we were talking to and where we were, that this was the wrapper and that we're now in an instance and we got the inside instance quest. Cool. Oh, this is a terrible one. All right, so what happens if we abandon a quest? If you abandon this, you'll be removed from the instance. All right. And I am leaving. All right, but what happens if I stop? I failed to leave the instance. I failed to abandon the quest. All right, let's find out. Because something a different plugin author mentioned when we were chatting is that you don't get a chat message when you abandon a quest. And I would say that is correct. Let's go ahead and cancel this. So, I didn't get a chat message. In fact, I didn't get any message. I got a bong, an audible bong, but I didn't get any message that a plugin would be able to see that says that I no longer have that quest active. But if I did complete that quest, and what's one that is fast enough? Yeah, Stirring of Spirits, that's fine. So, if I were to come into Stirring of Spirits and complete this, I will be able to see that I completed it. We're just going to do this real fast. In fact, let's go ahead and give myself a buff. I am running with landscape difficulty, and I do not have the ability to activate a delving because I'm not cap level for this server, which is 160, not 116, though they are basically the same number. I think it should count, but Standing Stone Games does not agree. Which is this? Oh, I know which this is. Great. Interesting. You cannot do that while moving and interrupted. Those are technically coming in on the error channel. I'm used to only identifying things in the error channel that belong to plugins. It's very weird to me. I guess, okay, anything that's popping up on the screen like that is also getting echoed to the error channel, and that's good to know. Okay, so we're just coming on up here. We're skipping a lot of the spirits, or some of the spirits that we don't need, because we know that we just need to come over here and defeat Ulor here, the Sleepless, and we're just going to be done. And this is why a lot of people will say that missions are one of the fastest ways to level in the game, because if you're comfortable with the defeating lots of enemies aspect of the game, then you're good to go. So we can see I completed Mission Stirring of Spirits. Now that's the inside the instance one, which by completing it will allow me to complete the outside of the instance one. But in the meantime, I can go ahead and travel now. And this is the travel dialog that's afforded to me by the outside one. And now in the outside, I can come complete. I'm not out yet. So technically speaking, I'm like in the teleporter stream between instance and out here. And so the game's not allowing me to interact with this NPC until I fully materialize here. Okay, so I finished this, and we can see I completed Mission Stirring of Spirits, and then I completed Mission Stirring of Spirits, which gave me a few more pieces of information in the... Is that really in Quest? Oh, that's Loot. Hang on. Quest. It's not loot. Fascinating. So, apparently what you earn goes into quest. And I can see I also advanced my progress on 2 other quests, completing missions and completed missions. Notice that it doesn't tell me which quests those relate to. But if I happen to know from previously watching chat channels that I'm doing on a mission weekly and on a continuing mission, I do know that those have end goals of 15 and 45. So I could potentially try to match those up, but it's not saying completed objective of on a continuing mission weekly, completed missions 11 out of 15. So there's gaps to fill in the information where maybe you're guessing as a plugin to try to map that information, or maybe you don't even try. Maybe just say, I know when you pick it up, I know when you complete it, I don't know if you drop it, but if you pick it up again, I'll assume that you dropped it, or that it's a repeatable quest, in which case I missed that you completed it. Doesn't matter. So if you're trying to track which quest you've completed at least once in-game, a plugin could do a reasonable job of that. But, of course, there's always that problem of how do you know which quest textually, stirring of spirits, which quest does that align with in some sort of an internal reckoning? Because if you have access to the data dumps, for instance, LOTRO Companion gives access to some of those, then you know that stirring of spirits, mission stirring of spirits, corresponds to a specific a number, an ID of that. In fact, let's go take a look at that. I'm going to go off screen here to my LOTRO data, and we're going to look at quest, and I'll pull this on screen here. Once it's open, great. Okay, so in the quest file, if we look for something called Mission Stirring of Spirits, then we're going to find quest ID 18794500347, great. And then we'll also find 18794500351. And one of those is going to be the one inside the mission. One of them is going to be the one outside of the mission. Is there a way to tell? Maybe. One of them is a scope 10. Nope, not scope. I'm sorry, I want category. 397 and 350. Great. So using the categories, so we come on into the enums and we go to the quest categories and we say, okay, what's a category 350 mean? Okay, that's missions. Great. And 397? Mission Before the Shadow. Great. So those correspond to where they would show up in your quest log. And you can do some reverse engineering yourself in-game to figure out which one of those is the wrapper and which one of those is not. So, but from the quest messages here, we completed one, we got a new one. It's not telling you where it shows up in the hierarchy in your quest log. So you have to do that mapping yourself if that's what you want to do as a plugin. So all of these contain lots of possibilities and challenges, and that's kind of where the deed log is, or the deed tracker plugin is, except that for every deed in the game, there's probably 10 to 50 quests. You go into a new region, and there'll be 20 to 50 deeds, but there'll be hundreds of quests. And so this is all of the problems of deed tracker magnified, because everything's bigger, everything's harder, everything's more challenging. With that being said, I will catch up on the chat. Okay, gnargnar says, thanks for giving me a window into this. So, yeah, exactly. With this logic, you cover a lot of the existing quests in the game, but you'd very likely run into specific wacky things that would need special handling. Absolutely. One of the things I will frequently point out is that if you complete in Deed Tracker the quest Wolf Slayer, Wolf Slayer? Oh, sure. Wolf Slayer. Oh, it thinks I'm in the Trollshaws. Maybe I meant Warg Slayer. It knows where I am. That's the problem. Does it still know where I am when I load this up? There we go. So, deed tracker in the pathological case, if it cannot sort out which deed definitely is the one that you finished, just straight up asks you. It's like, I think you're in Cardolan. You just finished something called Spider Slayer. Breland and Lone Lands are both adjacent to where you are by land travel. So you could have pulled one of their spiders into Cardolan and then slayed it, but it will still count for those regions. So you could have just finished a Breland or Lone Lands, or I don't know what's going on, and these are all the other Spider Slayers in the game. Maybe it was one of them. But that's the basic logic, is that if it knows that you're in a place like the Shire that has a Spider Slayer deed, and that you have either already completed all Spider Slayers adjacent, or there are no Spider Slayers adjacent by land crossing, then it'll be like, well, okay, you're in the Shire, it's definitely that one. But if it doesn't know where you are, or if it could be that you were in the Lone Lands, but you went and you pulled a goblin across the border from the Breland into the Lone Lands, and then you defeated it, then you'll get credit for Breland even though you're in the Lone Lands. So your location is a good proxy, but it can lead you astray because the mechanisms of the game don't care where you defeat a mob, it cares where the mob is sourced from. So, gnargnar says, unlike deeds, user would have to put their existing completions manually. Well, because of the existence of LOTRO Companion, we have an import for deed progress into Deed Tracker, and it's certainly very possible to do the same thing with quests. So even if you selected the wrong things, you could do an import from LOTRO Companion and get your plugin state aligned with the game state. So LOTRO Companion is a very strong outside of game product for this kind of thing. And then, I keep thinking about doing an in-game quests plugin, but it just hasn't risen to the top of the wish list so far. gnargnar says, I never even looked at the options page. So everything in... all the stuff down here is just for debug purposes. You should not be able to see it unless you change a line in code to let you do this. This lets me simulate receiving chat messages from the game, so I can say, hey, I completed Spider Slayer. And that means I don't actually have to go out and kill 50 spiders to make that pop up. So it's very handy for me. It's not very useful anywhere else. And so the standard options cut off after verbose logging. Yeah, gnargnar says, does Deed Tracker import from LOTRO Companion or from the in-game deed log? LOTRO Companion import is what it supports. And so if you go into Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, Plugins, Cube Plugins, Deed Tracker, you're going to see an import deed completion from lotrocompanion.hta. And if you open that up, it'll look something like this, and then you'll be able to import from... by pressing either the import button next to the one or the import all button if you just want to do them all. So if I did do an import for Affodil on Peregrine, great. Then the next time I load Deed Tracker, it's going to go ahead and pull in or allow me to say, hey, you completed 2,091 deeds that we don't know about. So let's go ahead and do that. And then that synchronizes this with my last import from LOTRO Companion. Now this is a little out of date probably. Is the import fixed? I think it got broken. I can't remember if it was patched. Anyway, so that is a curiosity. Little Redhead says, I know the potential problem of dragging a mob over from another region, but I think it's such an edge case that it's probably not worth having the exceptions window from the user perspective. Yeah, I get it, but I've actually done that. I mean, it was for testing purposes, but I went to the Lone Lands, I tagged a mob that was in Breland, and I slayed it in Lone Lands and completed a Breland deed. So I think it's one of those things that if you only have 10 users... yeah, they might never see it. If they do, it's fine. And if you have 1,000 users, it's much more likely to happen. And fortunately, I don't have to worry about the problem where I have millions of users because that's not really where we're at. Oh, cool. All right, it does say it's updated. Well, let's go ahead and do and I really only care about deeds here. Start. Deed status, in progress. Done. Great. Okay. Well, then we can redo that. Import. And let's go ahead and import Peregrine Affodil. Done. And reload Deed Tracker. Okay. Apparently I've completed 124 quests since then. Oh, a bunch of them are allegiances. Those don't count. I mean, they do count. So there's so many allegiance quests, and they just track your levels. And we have completed all of Kingdom of Gondor and the Court of Lothlorien Endurance folks since the last time I imported. So that's good. Okay. So that's the import process. It's pretty easy, and you could have something that's the same for a quest tracker as well as the deed tracker. And so the interface could be very similar. The functionality could be very similar. The complexity behind what quest did I just complete could be a lot worse. And so if you're willing to accept, a smoothing out of the experience, like if they completed the inner wrapper for the mission, you could just say, well, I think they probably will complete the outer wrapper, and if they don't, that's kind of on them, right? Like they should turn in the quest. If you're willing to have that, that's fine. Or if you're willing to mark that this name has to be completed twice in order for this quest to count, things like that. But there's so many different ways to do quests in the game that I would very much suspect that a first release would have all sorts of wacky edge cases that would either need to be accounted for or just be like, sorry, just resync, it'll be fine. Anyway, thanks for the question. That's why a quest tracker has not manifested, even though it would essentially be a clone of deed tracker plus, some modifications, because it's the details are tricky there. Okay, we're going to come on into the barter window. And so, where we were before that excellent question. Gnargnar says, I think I'd almost rather just have a plugin that shows LOTRO Companion summaries. Well, in case you did not know, if you do a search, and I'm just going to use the LOTRO Plugin Compendium here, to search for the... Nope, that's the wrong icon. I'm going to use the LOTRO Plugin Compendium here, not the LOTRO Companion, to search for the confusingly named Compendium, LOTRO Compendium. They're by the same authors, which, Lunar Water, you should have known better, but if you use the LOTRO Plugin Compendium to search for the LOTRO Compendium and add that into your plugins, then we go ahead and load up the Compendium, and notice, we could use more maps as well. Awesome. I don't know how this works after the rescaling, but let's find out. So this has quests, deeds, whatever. So if we want to filter by, let's say we're only going to look at things that are 116 to 120. What's new? I'd actually really love it if it was sort of by category. Is that a settings? I don't see that as an option. So, Raider in the Hills. Prerequisites, Hunger for Vengeance. Gives basic information for this, and stuff at the bottom. Let's look at the stuff at the bottom. Can I make it bigger? That'd be cool. Oh well. Objectives. Shapakai can be found at Phil Sumog and Wandering Northern Woods Edge. Many of them, blah blah blah. Objective 2. You have defeated many of the Shapakai. Awesome. And then there's the description. As the final battles of the war come to an end in the Vales of Anduin, spoilers, a company of orcs known as the Shapakai fled into the hills of Woods Edge. And then you can put your own comments here, like, I have never done this quest, ! And add that in. So you can also do searches. So let's just assume that there's going to be a warg in the levels 116 to 120. The Den of Wargs, there is one. Defeat wargs in Duskinville. I'm shocked. And Warg of the Wolf Dens. Warg clearing can be found. Cool. In Vegpar. Okay, that's the Northern Mountains. Let's go ahead and change that filter. So we're going to reset that. And we can see that there's 14,824 results here in the quest part of the compendium. There's also a deeds section. So if you're really looking for that friendly frogs deed, you can see what are the objectives for that and so forth. So give that a try. See if you like it. See if it's useful. Gnargnar says, holy moly, you have just changed my life again. That's given to us by community member Lunar Water, who also did the LOTRO Plugin Compendium. And it's, it's like if you only have one monitor, especially, and you just can't be alt-tabbing out to the wiki, out to LOTRO Companion, whatever resources might fit on your other screen, then this is a way to just do it all from within game. So they've got quests, deeds, items. So if you're looking for Ed, Hell, Harn, and want to know what the options are, the recent scaling thing has probably messed up this. Probably used to be smaller. But these may be interactable. Can I control right click them? Not obviously. But they at least tell you what's up. And craftable. Nice. gnargnar says, I wiki for this info all the time, so this is game-changing. Awesome. There's also crafting here if you want to know. Let's, Doomfold. Oh, no. Well, I don't know what's in the crafting then. Instrument. Drums. Show me the drums. Awesome. And then there's a few settings here. Anything that's talking about stretching or shrinking things, like showing mini icon, may be broken under the new system here. So I'm going to go ahead and say show mini icon. Oh, good job. It does work, and but plugins are struggling a little bit under the recent release because a certain technique that plugin authors used to scale the size of things inside of other things that can also be scaled is not currently working as it did. And so some plugins like MiniRate are just accepting that those things are no longer scaled, and it affects some plugins a lot more than others. gnargnar says, I am in completionist heaven. I don't remember exactly, but I think it's quite possible that Compendium may try to track if you complete something, RE quests, and if not, you can check things off yourself. Though, again, I think it would be neat if these were hierarchically shown. You can at least say, just show me all the ones in the Beacon Hills, for instance, though. And that's great. Quest change. Show me a quest change. Canopy and Hollow. Oh, they're not in the same. And I'm not sure I like the transparency of the menu while I'm over it, but that's okay. Anyway, yeah, all sorts of fun things in there. Give it a try. Cool. Oh, Compendium almost certainly loaded up Waypoint. And so if there's something that has coordinates on it, you can click it and then bring up Waypoint, and then Waypoint will tell you how to get there. So, points of interest, Cullableer in the Trollshaws for the further adventures of Bilbo. Bam. Explorer. Yeah, Lost Explorer. Sure. Quest chain. No, that's okay. Anyway, so if you haven't used Waypoint, it's cool. If you have used Waypoint, even better. Okay. Neat. Well, yes, what's Waypoint's precious? If that is a legitimate question, I can certainly answer it. If you are already familiar with it, I appreciate the reference. While I wait for you to answer that, let's think about this. So we need controls that are going to live at each expandable thing. Oh, gnargnar says, yes, please, what is it? So Waypoint is a very simple plugin that is designed to tell you how to get to a place. Let's go ahead and pull up Deed Tracker. So, where am I? I'm in Cardolan. Great. Eriador, Swanfleet, and Cardolan. Let's assume that I was trying to do Explorers of Cardolan by doing the Ravaging of Cardolan. And let's assume I'm remembering that there is a expanded deed tooltips option. So we're going to come on in here to the Ravaging of Cardolan and tear it off as a tooltip with the whatever key, H something, A, S, D, F, G, yeah, H sounds right. And great, so I need to do these things. So, great, we can see a little arrow here. Deed Tracker knows if you have Waypoint installed, and if you do, it will include this little arrow here, and that's just a shortcut to get Waypoint to show up. You can also manually do this. So if I do /way space target space 53.47 south, or S, 53.47 west, that's suspicious. And then it will show up with the same information. So you can do it either way. Now, you need to do a /LOC command, which I have bound to this spot to my mouse wheel tilting right. But you need to do a /LOC command. Is there something closer? Yeah, there we go. The stone seat, 400 meters away. So every time I do /LOC, Waypoint's going to refresh itself. If I go a couple of seconds without doing it, it's going to change to remind me that that information is out of date. It's not a live update. So, my goodness, that gets tall. Maybe we can come up here. Maybe we can't. But every time I do a /LOC, it's going to redo how far away is it, 300 meters at the moment, and what direction. So range and bearing. Great. So we can see I'm 278 meters away from the stone seat. Now I have already discovered this. So in fact, we can see on the map here that the stone seat is, well, door Airnell apparently. Maybe it's in there. Dole Airnell, not door. So presumably it's a thing in here. I'm just going to fall down. That's sad. Can I get up again? Are they going to keep me down? Yay. Okay. So /LOC, refresh that. Great. Am I going up here? Sure, I'm going up there. I have not. I did small fleet in Cardalon once on this character, and then haven't really been back. Okay, so it's in here somewhere apparently. Oh, this one! I'm in here in missions all the time. Okay, so this is the stone seat. It's an important part of a storyline that takes place in Cardalon, so I won't go into that any further. gnargnar says, I wonder if there's a way to make /LOC auto-refresh at some interval. No, explicitly not. I mean, it is up to you to make that happen. And if you do like I do, I just bound it to a mouse button. Not every mouse does this, but my mouse has a wheel that will tilt left and right, and those are distinct keyboard inputs as far as LOTRO is concerned. So if I come into my options and go to key mapping, then I come on down to my quick slots, and quick slot number 61 is button 4, which is tilting in one direction. And I think follow is button 2. Well, sure. Anyway, I think button 2 is my mouse wheel tilting that way. Maybe button 3 is the wheel going in. Button 4 is to the right. Sure, all of that. So I have just bound it to something. But you could also bind this to a keyboard shortcut. So maybe, tilde. If you don't use tilde for anything else, you could just make tilde your /LOC, and you can just hammer on that. The game doesn't stop you from doing LOC as much as you want, which either suggests that it is a local calculation and doesn't hit the server, or they just did not think to throttle it. Yeah, okay. I'm always approaching this from the south in the missions, so I didn't recognize where we were or what we were doing. So that's what waypoint is. It will give you range and bearing to get to a place. However, the big gotcha is that different parts of the world use different coordinate systems. Much like different parts of the world use different languages. And so there are potentially multiple usage of the coordinate 20.3 south, 97.2 west. And specifically, while all of Eriador is more or less contiguous in their coordinate system as far as I know, once you get into Moria and once you go over to Ravanian, the consistency isn't there. They instead of redoing all the existing coordinate systems, they just said, hey, Ravanian coordinate systems are different. So we can see I'm at 15 south, 72 west. There might be something similar like that over, 15 south, 72 west is in the middle of Lake Avendim or Karis Galadin in Lothlorien. So with the numbers alone, Waypoint cannot tell you for sure. It'll just navigate to, it'll assume that it's local to your own coordinate system. So, and I actually don't think this is necessarily a bug in the sense that Tolkien loved having multiple names for places and people and things. And I think if he, were okay with everything else about LOTRO and then was told, oh, by the way, we have like 5 different coordinate systems that have conflicting answers on where you are in the world, I think he would love that. Just based on everything else he did. I don't think he would be like, no, there must be one single coordinate system for the world. No, like there's 7 different names for Aragorn, whatever. I think that would make a lot of sense. Like, that's just a fractioning of the world due to the fall of man or whatever. But just as a player, be aware that if you see a coordinate system, the region that it's in is an important but hidden part of that information. So I'm at 39.4 south, 50.6 west in Cardalon, and more generally in Eriador, but not universally. So, yeah. So just be aware of that. Yeah, either they didn't have a CAD/GIS person on the team, or they just, when you make a new video game, there's a lot of challenges. Even if you make a great product, which is a very subjective thing, there are a lot of market forces outside of your control, and you're also releasing this and competing in a world where World of Warcraft is new and king. So they had no guarantee they were even going to get to Moria, let alone have to answer this problem. So I don't blame them necessarily. Maybe a little bit more forethought, like take an extra hour to design your coordinate system a little differently, and you solve the problem. But I don't think it's actually a problem. Just as players, we have to know that when someone says, "Oh yeah, you just need to go to 39.4 south, 50.6 west," just make sure you get that extra information. What region is that in? Where in the world is that? Because Waypoint will just take you to the nearest version of that, or will tell you confusing things. Like if I say, "Hey, I would love to go to Minas Tirith." Minas Tirith is 22.4 north, 55.9 west. That's bonkers because we're currently farther south than Minas Tirith and Cardalon. No, obviously we're not. They're just different coordinate systems. But if I said, "Hey, Waypoint, let's go there," it's going to tell me that I am 12,000 meters south from Minas Tirith, almost directly. It's almost due north of me. That's a nonsensical answer. Of course, we know that, so we know that something's gone wrong, and the answer is the different coordinate systems. So just be aware of that. But locally, Waypoint is fantastic. The wiki will especially call out coordinates for interesting things. Like if you're looking for these explorer objectives, there'll be tables that say this thing's at this position, this thing's at this position, and you can just copy paste that into LOTRO. Let's do an example of that actually. LOTRO Cardalon Explorer. Cardalon Deeds, great. Explorer. And we're doing what? The Ravaging of, sure. The Ravaging of Cardalon. When you come in here, there's usually going to be a little table like this, and you can just copy this. The extra characters don't matter. You can have the brackets. In fact, you can have this entire line if you want. And let me make sure that my chat window is visible here. So if I do space target space and just paste that whole thing in, Waypoint was just looking for the coordinates, so it's going to use a pattern to pull out the coordinates. And we can see it pulled out 53.5 south, 53.5 west, perfect. Exactly. It's super far away, so I don't want that one. So I'm going to copy this next line. So you don't have to worry about only copying exactly the characters. Waypoint is going to do great. So way target enter, and we can see, oh no, it's 45 meters away. That's the stone seat again. So it's fine. Yeah, gnargnar token hates WGS 84. I don't know how he felt about standards in general, but he definitely felt comfortable with complexity in his world, where things are named different things. And I think we can all appreciate that sometimes that just makes the world more interesting, sometimes it makes it easier, sometimes it makes it harder. gnargnar works in JS, so intimately familiar with coordinate system concepts. Little Redhead thinks Tolkien would have had different coordinate/directional systems entirely. Yeah, it's fun going into the appendices, even for something simple like harvest math, and seeing how Lord of the Rings appendix will talk about this specific holiday from the view of the different races and different names and different calendar systems and all that. So, yeah. gnargnar, for hobbits, distance is measured in meals/travel time. Yeah, well, I mean, even as most humans that I know that I have interacted with will freely mix up distance and time when talking about distance. Like, how far away is that thing? It's about 20 minutes. That's not an answer to the question. That's how long away it is. That's not how far away it is. But the reality is, most of the time when we're talking about distances, we're really talking about how long does it take to cover that distance. Like, if I were to ask how far away is Paris from here? Like, I might be looking at the actual numbers, but if we're talking at all about movement towards there, then the time it takes to cover that distance is probably the relevant thing to the conversation. So we have a conversion between distance and time that we implicitly understand, which I think is fantastic, even though mathematically it's nonsense. So hobbits, meals / travel time? Absolutely. Absolutely. How many times do I have to eat before I get to Paris is a reasonable version of how many hours is it until Paris. And it matters. Like, if you don't have restaurants on the road, and I didn't see any restaurants in the Lowlands between the Forsaken Inn and, what is it? Not Estleton. I'm going to lose my head next. Lowlands, Osgoodurth. Like, there's no restaurants here, so you got to know how many meals you're packing into your rucksack, your backpack, before you set off from here to here. That's a very valuable piece of information. Maybe less so if you've got a horse to carry it all, but hobbits don't. Okay. Well, awesome. Thanks for the question. Waypoint is such a simple tool. It's fantastic. I love it. As I adapt my playstyle to a more completionist, slower paced way of encountering the regions, I tend to rely on Waypoint and the wiki coordinate system, for that matter, a little bit less, just because by the time I've done every quest in a region, I have probably naturally encountered the things and this that are in that region. So, as an early example, if you are in the Shire. If you're in the Shire and you're doing explorations, it is going to take you into where's the hill? The Vale Height. You're going to go into the Vale Height. If you're doing the Slayer Deed for Sickle Flies, you're going to go to the Vale Height. And chances are there's a quest somewhere in the Shire that asks you to go defeat some Sickle Flies at the Vale Height. So if you do every quest in the Shire, you'll probably have a good idea of where to go to complete that Slayer Deed. And in fact, it's the Shire, so you might accidentally complete both Slayer Deeds there without even thinking about it. But you'll also have found that place. Same thing with the Stock Tower. I think there's at least one quest that takes you there. So if you do every quest in a region, your need for the wiki to tell you where these special things are tends to fall down. So now I'm mostly using them for the rare treasures and the hidden treasures of the more advanced regions, where there's like 10 or 15 of these. And even now, because I don't want to be bothered to keep track of which ones I have already found, I find myself relying more on LOTRO Companion, which has an excellent feature of, please show me a map of this area with the things I have not done yet that have a specific location. And for instance, let me pull that up here. I don't know why I close it. I love having it open. So if I come into Affadil on Peregrine, which is my completionist character, which is why I've got 4 months of in-game time. Oh, goodness. Now, a lot of that in-game time is like me talking about plugins or actually writing plugins, so it's not all played time, but still. So if I come into Deeds here, there is a fantastic Maps button, and it will just show me, really? What am I missing there? Oh, yeah, Dome of Stars. Yeah, fair enough. So if you limit which deeds you're looking at, so let's go ahead and look at the Mordor. Plains of Gorgoroth. Oh, this is deeds. Sorry, Plateau Gorgoroth. Plateau. I think. Well, now I'm questioning myself. Hang on. Mordor. Oh, it's just Gorgoroth. Of course it is. Everything's got to have multiple names. So if we come into Gorgoroth and say, I don't care about completed deeds, these are the uncompleted deeds. Are any of them on a specific map? Actually, the answer is no. I've found every location-specific thing already with the help of this. But if we come into, what do we have? Do we have Aaron Lasgalen for the North, Rovanian? We're just getting up here. Strongholds of the North. Sure, Strongholds of the North. Strongholds of the North. And I say, let's go ahead and show me a map here. Awesome. Northern Mirkwood. So these are roughly the locations where I can find uncompleted objectives for deeds. And sometimes the same thing is multiple ones. Like almost certainly these 4 are all for the same thing. This is Thulkat, Thulkat. So this is kind of a boundary box around which if you cross the line from any direction, you're going to need to have explored Thulkat. So don't think this is a one-to-one for objectives, but in general, if there's an X somewhere, there's probably something for you to do. gnargnar, I just got such a huge dopamine hit when you showed that map. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's lovely, and it's zoomable in a way that I wish the in-game one was, and I appreciate why it's not both for a technical reason, just it's a very old map, but also an in-game reason. We don't have good maps of the world. The world's huge, and we don't have satellites. We have horses. And if you're lucky, ink and parchment. So maps being inconsistent, incorrect, or unavailable just feels very in character to the world. So when I go into a random cave and I press M and there's no map, I'm like, I guess no one's been here for the last 200 years and no one's thought to bring a pen and paper when they did. So, oh well. Right, like I try to incorporate that into my gameplay as oh, this is just like a here there be dragons kind of situation. Oh well. But from a player perspective who wants to complete these deeds and quests, this is just such a great thing. So as you zoom in, you'll get the radar view of it instead of just the paper map version of it, which I also find very helpful because I'm oftentimes comparing where I am to my radar on the screen instead of to my position on the M map. So I love that it does that. And we can see here, Exploratoric ML. There are, in fact, a lot of points here that are probably all Exploratoric ML. Oh, and there's a treasure cache there as well. So as soon as you do Exploratoric ML, if you re-import your character progress into LOTRO Companion, it's going to go ahead and mark all of these as complete, but there'll still be that one X there that's not, because that's a treasure cache. So as you're eliminating these quests, and in fact, we could just search for treasure and then show me a map for that, please. And then these are just the locations of treasures that you have not yet done. And as you do them, they're going to turn into little green check marks, and you don't have to remember where you found treasure. You don't have to remember where you found bark pieces for the quests, assuming this is available for quests, I guess. Let's find out. All right, so quest. Aaron Lasgalen. Yeah, okay. So if we come into the quest category of Aaron Lasgalen, we look for not completed, and is there a map? I don't actually know if there's a map. If there is, I don't know where it is, apparently. Neat. Always something new to learn. So Lost Lore of the North Elves, we can at least come in here and it at least knows which of these I have not collected yet. So that can be a place where maybe the wiki is still very useful if there isn't a hidden map button somewhere that I can't see. Excellent. So, yeah, LOTRO Companion has offloaded a lot of that cognitive effort of remembering which things I've found, which means that I feel a lot less like, oh, I've got to do all of them right now, or I'm just going to go in circles later trying to figure out which ones I haven't done. Which means I can experience the game a lot more naturalistically and just go where I go, and if I find them in the course of playing, that's great. I end up exploring most of the area, doing all the quests and all that, and then just doing cleanup with the help of LOTRO Companion later on, and it saves a bunch of time. And I think gives me a better play experience than before when I was like, oh, I've got to be more mindful of the meta stuff, the deed completion, and less just focusing on the gameplay. So, yeah, it's neat. That being said, thanks for the great question. Yeah, so coordinate systems are wacky in LOTRO. I don't think it's necessarily a problem, just something to be aware of. And you know what? We don't need to go anywhere. We're good. we're going to go back to the stone throne. If you haven't done the Swampfleet and Cardalon storyline, I only done it the one time, so I haven't really internalized it. But I do think it was worthwhile. But I really have a fondness. Oh, that didn't work. I really have a fondness for the Shadows of Angmar start. So I have not really done the Swampfleet and Cardalon intro with anything other than my completionist character, who was already a little bit leveled out of that at the time. I haven't run it from level 1 to 30 with a brand new character. Narno says, I feel like I hijacked you. Please work on Festival Buddy. Well, the good news is we have a few weeks before the Spring Festival, so there wasn't anything urgent in my work today. But, you know, I hopefully, obviously, love talking about LOTRO in general and plugins in specific. And so I wouldn't call it a derailing so much as just a refocusing temporarily. I'm going to put a pause button over there. Come on over here. Okay, so let's take a look at this. So we have an idea of we're going to have a control that is size 16 by 16 that either has the plus or the minus button. One could also have two controls that you just swap which one's visible. I think that's unnecessary complexity. So we're just going to toggle back and forth. And so what we need is this images collapse and expand button. So we're going to come in here and yank these and bring them into Festival Buddy. Now Festival Buddy has a similar structure, so there's also an images file. These were both, I believe, Galahad originally did Festival Buddy. Let's see. Based on Galahad's Festival Buddy. Galahad also did the Hitbolt Assistant plugin on which a lot of the structure of Deed Tracker was originally based. And so that's why there's a strong similarity between the file structure here. So, first thing we need to do is say, does this already exist here for any other purpose? And the answer is, I don't see it. We're going to go ahead and also search for the word expand. We're going to stop searching for case sensitivity. That's just going to mess us up. So 7E27. No. Okay, so those values aren't already there. I'm assuming because the expand button's not there, the collapse button isn't there. So we're going to go ahead and bring this into the images. Is there a reasonable place for it? I think above all the festival stuff. And we're going to, yeah, we'll just make a new spot for it right here. Okay. So we have the plus and the minus. Let's look at, the expand all and the collapse all are so easy to implement. I think I just want to knock those out real fast just as a way of making a little bit of progress. And so what we want to do is think of where is this going to be? No, this is fantastic. Thanks again. Those dance buttons might be the greatest invention of our time. Well, Festival Buddy has a lot of features that predate my involvement with it, and so all the thanks for the emote windows that Festival Buddy provides go to Galahad, who did a great job with it. I've added onto some things like the barter window, and I've made some new things like the Hobnanigans scoreboard, but a lot of that stuff predates me. What the heck is that? Oh, that shouldn't be there. Great. So we found a bug. We found a bug in that this should only show up if there is a quest selected, and then it should hide that quest. It's showing up whenever we change festivals, and it's showing up when we go to Hobnanigans. So that's bug X button to clear the selected quest shows up when you first load a festival and shouldn't. It is also visible for Hobnanigans where there is no quest selector. Cool. So, great, we found a bug. Yes, Narno says, thanks, Galahad. Absolutely. And code comments. Well, in fact, this is my to-do list that I just have inline here, but I do try to do the occasional code comment as well. Okay, so Do we want to pause? I do kind of want to nail that down before I go too much further. So what we're going to do is find that. It's in the main window, but we might actually have an easier time backtracking. Is there a close button? Close. Great. Close normal. Great. Let's go to the main window and see if we can find that. Great. Clear quest button. Awesome. So this thing is the problem. We have mouse enter, mouse leave, mouse click. Great. But it should not be visible. So first of all, clear set visible. False. But also when we change the festival, it should not be there. So festival drop down festival. There we go. So if we refresh the festival, and this is called, when we're loading, and item changed. When we do the item changed, we're going to refresh the token view. What else do we do? Fill main win. Okay, what does fill main win do? Refresh debuff view? Sure, but okay. When we're loading a quest, we set the visibility there. Great. And a refresh quest guide. Oh, that should have been refresh festival. All right, so the DD festivals, when this changes, item changed. In here, we want to go ahead and understand what's going on. I feel like filling the main window should do this. We do the tokens, cooldowns. If it's Yule, then we do stuff. It's not Yule. The quest guide, the DD quest drop down. Clear quest button. Oh, okay. Yes. So just setting it visible to false here is enough. Neat. Let's give that a shot. So we're going to come back into our plugin manager, and I keep forgetting I have put it down here as one of the shortcuts at the bottom, and then I forget to use it. Oh well. All right, Festival Buddy, that's coming in. And if we come on into Hobnanigans, great, we can see it's not there. Coming into Anniversary, it's not there. Okay, and now it is. Go back to Harvest Math, still not there. Hobnanigans. Lovely. Okay. Cool. So let's get that committed at least. Fixed bug where close button is visible before a quest is selected. Neat. So that's going to be in the main window, and that's actually just the one line change. No, bug squashed. Absolutely. So now I don't have to worry about that again. In fact, I can come on into the barter window and gone. Okay. So in the barter window, we need a expand all, contract all. Now in the skills window, it's in the upper right. In the crafting window, it's in the upper left. In the deed tracker window, where did I put it? I think it was really just where did I have room for it. Oh, in the upper left, though. Not in an obvious location. And I do actually wonder, did I do this correctly? Yeah. One thing I noticed about last time, maybe, in the skills window, is that if you do an expand all on Metalsmith and you go over to Prospector, it turns out expand all expanded all on all of these. And I find that very off-putting and non-intuitive. But that is just how it works, is these buttons affect all of these tabs, and I don't like that. But won't actually matter for us. Okay, so I think in the upper left makes a lot of sense because that aligns it on the left side with all the expand and contracts, and I think that visually I like that better. If we come into, not repetition, into titles, we can see those expand all and contract all. I think it's pretty much wherever they had room for it. But personally, I would have liked if they had said, put the show surname and show rank further to the right and put these buttons over to the left. But I'm also aware that they had to make sure that these were wide enough spaces for German and French versions of these texts, which, depending on your terminology, going to another language can make it a lot longer just to express the same idea. So I don't know if that was the problem that they were trying to solve here. But yeah, having them be there is very strange to me. Having them be on the right at least makes a little sense. All the way on the left makes sense to me. We're going to go all the way on the left. So we need to figure out where is this header happening and how do we get something in there. So we're going to come into the barter window, and it's not going to be refresh barter items. Let's find make barter. Nope. Let's go up to the top where we make a new window. Draw a barter win. Great. So there's two problems here. We need to be able to draw the things, but when we write the callback functions that act on them, they need to be able to access the things that are in that tree, or they need to be able to talk to the tree. So we're going to be thinking about that. Okay, so we have barter parent, back, the festival. I think that's what we're talking about. That's the foreground there. Let's go ahead and set the background color, and I think that'll be this label there. It was, and that looks hideous, so we're going to undo that. But that also tells us that label is stretched the entire width of the window. Now, that's not a problem for our purposes. We can put stuff on top of that label, but we do want to be aware that if any one of these festivals was especially wide, it can intrude into the space that we're thinking about. But we are only going to use about 40 pixels, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. Okay, so expand, collapse all buttons. So we need two of these, and a lot of other things here are being declared as global implicitly because they don't have the local keyword, and so this label barter festival is available everywhere. I don't actually think that's necessarily a good idea, but it is kind of the existing way a lot of this is written. So I'm not trying to fix other things while I'm in here too much. gnargnar says, to the text always scale with the window? That depends. Which window are you talking about? And also, why is my Hobnanigan stuff bleeding through? Another bug. Great. Bug. Hobnanigan's text remains when switching to in-league / ale associate. If they add scaling for plugins was the question. So the way the scaling works for a window, my understanding is that if you hook into the scaling system, which is on by default, and then you scale the UI, I'm throwing an error. No wonder it's not finishing with its drawing. My understanding is that everything should be scaled up in a similar manner as if you go to an image manipulation program and ask it to scale up an image. It's going to kind of fill in the details, and that can make it look quite wonky. And so one of the persistent issues with plugins in LOTRO is that we need to use fonts that are provided by the LOTRO client, and there's a few different typefaces and a few different options within those typefaces for bold, italic, that kind of thing, and size. And so our list of fonts is not as extensive as you might want. And why is my mouse acting as if it has a ball in it that is jammed? You have lasers. So if we come into the turbine.ui and we go to the, LOTRO, and we go to the fonts, these are the fonts. So we can see we have the Book Antiqua, Fixus, Lucida Console, Trajan Pro, and Verdana typefaces, unless I'm getting typeface and font mixed up, and the various sizes. So if it's not in one of these, then we don't get a native built into the game text in the shape that we want. Now, some people might like try to do their own typefacing systems where they have images of letters and throw them together, but text is very difficult, and I'm very glad to not be in that game. But that means that I have to pick from one of these, and if I need the text to go larger than that, then I need to ask LOTRO, hey, take this thing that is 200 pixels wide and stretch it out to 400 pixels wide, and everything will look kind of twice as big but a little bit blurry. gnargnar says, do you have an online link to this? This one is actually a downloaded version of the documentation, the update 25 Lua documentation that I believe I downloaded from LOTRO interface. But let me see. Download. Well, there is a... I really need LOTRO to be in there. Maybe it's this. It might have been this. Let's see. If I download that, what do I get? Yeah, okay. I'll put a link to that as well, just so you have that gnargnar. But I'm pretty sure I just took that and stuck it locally because there was a version available over on the wiki for a while. But recently, in recent times, when I go there, I get a blank screen. And when that happens, or if I'm just offline or whatever, it's always nice to just have a local version of it. I actually liked the version of the wiki a little bit better for enumerations for reasons, but it's not a deal breaker. And so this, I'm just navigating to that index.html in that zip file, and then it has relative links to everything else. So when I want to know, hey, what's up with the fonts, this is going to have reasonable information. Just bear in mind, for capital R reasons, the information here is not always 100% correct, usually because something is available to do, but it's not documented here. Classic example, if I go to turbine.ui control and I go search for stretch mode is not documented here, though it is a function that you can call, set stretch mode, and it's a very important one. And that's actually the cause of some of the problems in recent plugins since the whatever the latest version of LOTRO patch was. And I don't know for sure, but I guess it's possible that someone used this kind of documentation and didn't notice that stretch mode was there, and so it didn't show up in their testing. Not sure. gnargnar, how do you become aware of things like that? Looking at what other plugins do, for one thing, or asking other plugin developers, hey, how do you do this thing? There, unfortunately, was a lot of discussion about this kind of thing that was lost in the old forums, and some of us have backed up some of it into offline versions of it. But over on the forums, you can get discussions with plugin authors. There's a rather famous thread over there that was the writing LOTRO Lua plugins that Garen put together. That's on the old forums, though, so I'm not going to be able to find that. Let's see if I can find it. Okay, so I think Garen reproduced it over on the new forums. So writing LOTRO Lua plugins for noobs. That is, you're brand new to it, how do you do it? And so all the information in this has been vetted by people who know what they're doing, and so it's a really good place to start. And they might even call out stretch mode in here. Set stretch mode. So that kind of a community-based fan documentation of the system allows us to share information about, oh, hey, this function works. Now, originally, set stretch mode was probably told to plugin creators by someone at Turbine or SSG, but probably Turbine at the time. And it's like, hey, if you want to do a thing, you can call this function with these parameters. And it just spread around the community then, and it just never made its way into the update 25 Lua documentation, which is sad. So, yeah, when in doubt, if a plugin does something and you're like, hey, how'd you do that? You've learned a new thing, and that's very useful. Okay, so what's going on with this? Barter Window 298. Ah, right, because of reasons. All right, 298. All right, index out of range. What do you mean index out of range? That doesn't make sense. Where are we? Okay, so the barter item data. Item ID? Yeah, sure. We'll dump that. Great. So let's see why this is dying. Okay, so now we're at 304. Yeah. If barter items get nodes get count is greater than 0, then sure, that's a reasonable thing. If you don't have anything, don't try to expand. And then does that mean that we fixed the problem? Yeah, apparently I just misread which line was having the problem. Cool. Well, that doesn't explain why the error message seemed nonsensical to me, because it was nonsense. Neat. Okay, so, good. We have, so the problem wasn't that these things weren't being removed. The problem was we had an error in our barter window code that was aborting the attempt to clear the main window. And so, yeah, everything's good. I knew I would have seen that before now. Okay, done. Fillers ask, is the LOTRO UI still only HD, or does it scale to higher now? Yes, in a recent release, let's go to our options. If you go into your UI settings, there is now a global UI scale that you can play around with. And this UI scale appears to be, oh, sorry, global. There we go. So if I increase everything, we can see everything's getting a little bit bigger here. And that's including the text in these windows. And if I say never mind, we're going to go ahead and bring that back down. So this is not a perfect solution because it is using interpolation to kind of make up pixels to fill in the space. But it is a temporary, well, it is a workable system that they were able to introduce now so that people with higher density monitors, 4K monitors for instance, could use this global scale to make windows more readable if that was a problem for them. So for instance, if I'm specifically looking for maybe the quest log, the text is too small for me, then I should be able to come into quest and I should be able to, oh, that's the quest tracker, sorry. Which one of those? So one thing is they don't have every UI element in here. They have a long list of UI elements in here, but it's not all of them yet. So I think the intent is that they're going to add more later. So deeds, okay, let's see that. Okay, so we can see how the deeds window is getting bigger here. We can also see that it will max out at a certain point based on your screen. And so even though I told it to get bigger, it's not going to try to take up more space than was available here. But that means that if you are on a 4K monitor or otherwise need bigger text, that maybe this is a solution for you. Now, they're not using a larger font. They're rendering the image or rendering everything on screen and then scaling it up using graphical interpretation instead of just using bigger fonts. But it does solve the problem now, and the other problem seems much harder, so I can appreciate why they haven't started with that. I'm going to go ahead and bring deeds down, though, because that takes up too much space. Tiller says, I have 4K for like 10 years now, and several games are just unplayable. That's why I asked. Yeah, they've heard from a lot of players in the community, and in fact, many of the people at SSG also have 4K monitors or the like. And so internally, they've also known that this was something that was necessary. One of the problems with the recent release is that not all windows are correctly incorporated into this system. So for instance, the activated skills pop-up, like if you trigger some skills that are unlocked now, that's scaled weirdly. The fellowship invite panel is scaled weirdly. The captain invite window, where you select which of your fellowship members to invite to you, that looks weird. And many plugins have problems because a technique they use to scale things inside of other things that were being scaled is currently broken. And whether or not that will be fixed and in what time period is kind of a question mark, because we don't know. And SSG, if they know, have not communicated that to us yet. So plugins are in a bit of a weird state where some of them are fine. Some of them weren't using that technique or weren't using it to an extent where its absence is breaking the plugin. For instance, Mini Raid, there were some places where it was stretching the things, but those aren't important enough to the functionality that it breaks. It just looks a little weird. Whereas other plugins I have heard respond a lot worse. The D-Tracker plugin, I have heard reports, and in fact, let's pull it up. I want to see it in person. So the D-Tracker plugin uses a drop down here to select different characters, and I only have one character here, unfortunately. But if I were to change the deed size of no, if I were to change the plugin size, sorry, plugins, where is it? I know we saw it. All right, plugins. I know okay, global. So as we can see here, there's a box happening that shouldn't be there. And whenever you, that's a problem. Whenever you resize the window, it gets bigger. So we're just going to say plugins unload D tracker. And I'm curious if it comes back. Let's find out. Okay, so whenever you're resizing D-Tracker, under the situation where the global scale has changed, then that box is there. And is it still there now? Okay, so notice that some interaction between what size it thinks it should be and what size the game is setting it to be doesn't work. And so D-Tracker in this one place is, I would say, kind of broken. But if I close the window and bring it back, nope, it's still there because I didn't recreate the window. But I'm just going to reload the plugin, and it's fine again. And now because I don't have global scale turned on, the plugin is fine. That's a problem. And I am curious, I could have sworn there was a plugin section here. Let me just come through here for a minute. To the to-do list. It is on my to-do list to look at that, absolutely. It's a problem, but because I don't use the scaling, it's not in my face unless I just do that demonstration like I just did, in which case, very noticeable. I don't see it, which is odd. Lua, no. Plug, no. All right, so show me plug. Plugin Manager middle. That's it. That's so weird. But anyway, so you can affect plugins with this scale for the global scale, and their stated goal, I believe, is to expand the list of things that are in this list that are individually controllable. And I think that's neat because if you want everything bigger, like let's go ahead and scale up global, but then the deed panel is too big, you can bring that back down, right? And so being able to individually control elements, I think that will be very nifty once it's all sorted out. So we're in a transition period here where most things seem to work pretty well, but then there's edge cases. So I'm just looking at all my things that are different sizes. Kind of wanted to put them all back to 1 and see what the bog stock looking thing is. All right, anyway, so that's where we are. Thanks for the question, Tillers. It's actually really exciting that it is here-ish. We're just in that growing pains stage where it's they're sorting out issues where it's not quite working as intended, and over the next few weeks / months, fingers crossed, they'll work out all the bugs in the system, and it'll just be working as intended at that point. We'll see. Cool. And I had meant to see that issue in person myself, so thanks for reminding me to take a look at it. Okay, so let's come on back in here. We have a working system where we don't have any known bugs. And expand collapse all buttons. Cool. So we need a couple of controls. gnargnar says, is it possible to write plugins that modify the chat experience, mostly filtering and channel assignments? Yes-ish, and I think there are some plugins that do this. So plugins can see all messages that come in through the chat system, and they in fact get first dibs on it and can react to those messages before the message actually hits the chat window. However, there's 2 caveats. So if you do not have, if none of your tabs are subscribed to a channel, for instance, if none of my channels are subscribed to RAID, then I do not get RAID in my plugins either. At least one of my chat tabs has to be asking for it for plugins to be able to see it. And so that can be a thing. Plugins can't just say, yes, please, I would like to see all RAID messages. They are dependent on the player setting up their chat tabs correctly for that. And plugins can't modify anything going to the chat tabs, and they can't stop anything from going to there. So anything that's coming through, they can react to it, but they can't change, modify, or stop it. But a plugin can present its own interface kind of as if it were your chat windows, and can even allow you to send messages, kind of. For instance, if you go into the deed tracker and you want to share a recently completed deed, let's say I just Let's say I've just completed, we're going to go into Mordor. And I just completed, good job, me, Foothold in Dora Amarth Intermediate. Yay. Okay, great. So when you are here, it is possible for a plugin to make a thing that looks like a clickable button that will result in you sending a message to chat. So plugin can't itself send something into chat, but it can make something that if you click on it, it's an alias to sending something to chat. So for instance, if I say, I'm going to send that to say, and let's clear some things that are in front of me, then bam, I have said the thing. Not because the plugin did it, but because the plugin provided a button or something that looked like a button, but that was in fact an alias that let the player send the thing. So if I had a little text box where I was typing, and if the plugin use that text box to change what's in this alias so that when you click it, it sends the message. Then a plugin can act as if it is sending messages into the chat channels that you request. And so, for instance, this is going to say, but if I send it to fellowship, then I'm not in a fellowship. Sorry, if I send it to kinship, then yeah, it went to my kinship. Awesome. So gnargnar says, a problem I'd like to solve is having tabs automatically be on the right outgoing channel. I'm not actually sure what you mean in that context. For my experience, chat tabs are kind of sticky for the channel that they're going to. So for instance, I have a general tab here. So if I'm currently unsaved, but if I change it to raid and I come to the combat tab, I'm in save. If I go back to general, I'm in raid. So these tabs are sticky. So if I have a tab that's for fellowship kinship and I put that into fellowship, and if I go to local and I have that in say, and I go to world and I have this in /world, and I go to standard and maybe I want that to be kinship. And then I'm going through these. These are all, they're sticky with what I set it up. gnargnar says, how are you swapping outgoing channels so fast? Maybe that's what I'm missing. Sure. So the classic way is clicking on the button and choosing, right? And there's a couple here that are easy to get, and otherwise you have to go through there. But there's chat shortcuts. There's shortcuts for most of these. So for instance, if I want to change from fellowship to kinship, if I type /K space, then LOTRO knows that that is a directive to change the output channel. If I want it to go to if I want to go to say, then I type /say space, /K for kinship, /F for fellowship. Raid is tricky because /R is a reply to the last person who messaged you, but /RA is the shortcut to raid. /UC1 is a shortcut to user chat 1, /UC2 all the way up to UC8 maybe. Yeah. World, French, and German. I'm not actually sure if there are keyboard shortcuts to that, but /world, /LFF, /trade. And remember to hit a space after each one of these. gnargnar says, my experience has been that the tabs aren't sticky. I will investigate further. That's fair. I don't think I've done anything special to make mine sticky, but let's go ahead and go into the settings and see if there's something obvious. We have an IM chat tab, automatic no problem. Restrict any incoming tells. Stop repeated keys in chat. Oh, that's interesting. Like if you think you're, oh, I gotta try that. Hang on. So if it detects that you're like pressing and holding a key, it'll just stop. Let's see. Yeah. That's fun. I should turn that on because that gets me sometimes. Like if I'm trying to run, it'll stop, and then if I press it again, I'm not in that tab anymore. Okay, that's cute. That's cool. Whoever did that at SSG, good job, and I wish I knew about that like 5 years ago. That's awesome. But if we come into other options, that wasn't the one I was talking about. Timestamps on chat. Little Redhead hates it. I love it. You do you. But I find it very useful to know if I'm responding to someone in a world from 5 hours ago or 5 minutes ago. I don't see anything in here about stickiness, so I'm going to guess that the experience I'm having is supposed to be universal, but give it a try. Yeah, gnargnar says, does www a lot. Yeah, absolutely. So those are the keyboard shortcuts. Let's see. Say, fellowship, kinship. Yeah. What else? Emote. I don't know. Emote? I don't think that's a channel that I know about. OOC, that one should work just as it is. Now, of course, these prefixes are going to be different for French or German, but there's lists of them online to translate to your local language if you're not using English. RP, I think, does work. RAID, yeah, that's a /RA. Let's see, so RP? No. Okay, I don't see a fast change to RP. Regional works. And apparently escape will work also. Trade definitely does. I don't know about French and German. Usually chess 1 to 8 and world works. So, and of course, for emotes, you can just type them in here. So /cheer, you don't have to. Oh, there we go. But there's a couple that I use so often when I'm interacting with other characters that I just have carved out some space here for my completionist. So wave, cheer, and charge. By apparently a couple of those that I almost never use, so I should probably get rid of them. Sigh, talk, and shiver epic. What's that one do? Oh, we were doing something in cold climates. It's not very appropriate for Mordor. I'm gonna get rid of that. Maybe something more fire related. Fire. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so we do stuff in a group a lot, and I'll use the charge emote just as a general, hey, pay attention, but I'll also use it as a synchronization thing. So if we're interacting with an NPC that if one of us interacts with, the NPC is going to run away. Super inconvenient when there's 4 or more of us. So we'll all gather around it, and my little hobbit will charge, and then we'll all start interacting within about a second of each other. And that's just that's just a thing that we've gotten in the habit of doing to make our lives a little bit easier. So yeah, charge is used non-stop, it feels like, on our Saturday slow throwing. Anyway, so yeah, try using those keyboard shortcuts to change between channels, but try investigating the stickiness of the tabs, because that seems like it should be the experience that you're having. And if you're not having that, that could be a different discussion. Little Redhead says, Shiver could have been from the festival. Yeah, that could have been a Yule thing, but I feel like I might not have touched that for a while, so I'm not sure why that's there. gnargnar says, perhaps there's something different in the way new chat tabs are created. It's always possible. These chat tabs have been there for a while. Unfortunately, I'm maxed out on chat tabs on this character, so I can't actually investigate that further at the moment. But yeah, give it a try yourself and see, just without making new tabs, if you're only looking at the stickiness or not of that chat channel. What are you seeing? Are you seeing the chat channel stays regardless of the tab, or are you seeing the chat channel seems sticky with the tab, and when you change tabs, you get a different one? Because if you're not thinking about it, it can just be like, I changed tabs, and now it's not the one I want it to be, which I get even with the stickiness sometimes. Actually, my bigger problem is I'll change chat channels, not really think about it, and wish to be still in the same one that I was on the previous tab. Like I'll have my kinship fellowship tab, and I'll have been talking in there, and then I'll be looking at something in general and start typing, and it just goes to say, and I'm like, that's not what I wanted, game. It's what I told you to do, but it's not what I wanted you to do. Okay. So yeah, but there are ways for plugins to act kind of like as a chatting devices, and there are existing plugins out there that are designed to call your attention to things that happen in chat, like, oh, you were mentioned, and like flash something up or that kind of thing. So check them out on LOTRO interface for options out there. Okay, gnargnar says, when I use the dropdown, that outgoing channel becomes sticky rather than tabs retaining their own outgoing channel. Oh, that's interesting. I almost never use the dropdown. No, mine is still... Yeah, let me bring this out here. So this is on raid. So if I set this on fellowship, this is on kinship. So if I set that on fellowship, I come over here. That's on say. I'll set that to fellowship. Sure. Another all in fellowship, but that doesn't really tell us much. So say fellowship, kinship, and then fellowship say. So that's my experience right now, is that regardless of whether I'm using the keyboard shortcut or the chat bubble dropdown to select my channels, they stick to the tab when you're changing around tabs. And if that's not your experience, I can understand how that'd be really frustrating. One thing I would say is that if you don't want to change up the tabs on your current character because you've got them set just right, which is why I'm not investigating further because I've got mine just right, then yeah, maybe check with a new character or a different character and see if it's a character-specific thing, if it's these tabs are so old they don't have that functionality somehow, which I guess I could see the logic of, but I don't think that would be an explanation. But, you know, I've been wrong so many times before. Yeah. That's where I would go. It's a little bit more investigation. I'm going to go ahead and use this code to make a couple of controls, and then we're really running up against the end of my stream time here. So let's make something appear on screen. I've had a great time talking about all sorts of things, so gnargnar, don't worry about it. But it has been less productive than a stream where I'm sitting here all by myself. So I'm gonna make a thing appear on screen before we're done. So local expand all equals. Oh, interesting. Well, Redhead has said a thing, and I want to test it. No. The Redhead says, now if you type /k and then keep typing, after you hit enter, it will revert to what it was. But that's not my experience either. So if I do /f, well, I can't do /f because that, if I do /say, hi.
No, because you hit enter afterwards. Don't hit enter. Keep typing. /k, and then what you're going to say to the kinship, and then hit enter.
Hello.
No, you hit enter between the two.
No, I'm hitting space between the two.
Don't hit space. Wait.
You have to hit space between /k and the rest. Like if I do /k hello, it's just going to be an unknown command. So if I do /k space, my channel changes to kinship, and then I say hello, and it stays on kinship. It doesn't revert to say.
Space doesn't work for me.
What Redhead is saying space doesn't work for their use case.
No, I have to hit enter.
What do you mean?
You type /k and then space.
Yeah, so /say space hello, enter.
When I do /k space more words, it kicks that out to kinship, but then it goes back to whatever it was, like say or whatever.
Fascinating. Little Redhead is reporting a different experience, and I'm going to have to see this in person, but that may involve going over to her computer. So gnargnar asked, your space is triggering return. No, I was having a conversation with Little Redhead because Little Redhead thought I was pressing /k/say enter, which doesn't do what anything useful. Like if I come in here and type /k enter, I actually get a usage message, which is not correct. Now, if I do space and enter, then it just sort of cancels. Or if I do /say space and escape, it cancels there. But all of those times, my chat channel is changing, and Little Redhead is reporting something different. So after this stream is done, and after I've gotten some biryani because I'm hungry, I'm going to go figure out what's going on here, and maybe there is some sort of setting that is different. gnargnar wonders about /tell, and I don't know, is Rosenblum online?
Oh, I'm not. I could be.
No, none of my friends are online, so I'm not going to go about a /tell. /tell might be a little bit different because your IMs, by default, unless you change the automatically create IMs and send tells to IM chat tab, those are going to behave a little bit differently because they're going to end up here. So I could believe that that would behave inconsistently even if everything else is consistent. But Rosenblum says they're going to come online. You just want to see what happens right after hit space after tell. Sure, that one didn't actually do anything for me. So I'm going to do tell first, /tell space. It's not changing anything. And again, because I've got it set up where tells are doing sessions in here, I could believe that that's normal. But Rosenblum's going to come online here. And we're going to do another test because now you got me curious. And maybe Rosenblum can double check what happens when they do this typing thing as well while we're at it. I will say, I really enjoy the higher resolution loading screens that they've been able to shove in there now that they're taking use of the entire width of the screen instead of just stretching a 1024 by 7068 into the space. I'm in a fellowship. So if I do /tell Rosenblum, hello, neat. Now, that doesn't change my say, but in my IMs, if I click on over here, we can see that that forces the tell Rosenblum. Now, what happens if I undo send tells to IM chat? I don't know, let's find out. So I can first of all /tell space Rosenblum, hello, and I do not get that same thing. Now, if I do a /R for reply, hi. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, that didn't reply. Oh, Rosamund hasn't sent me a message. That's fine. And automatically create IM chat sessions. I think that's probably fine. I don't know what it would look like if you didn't do that. So I've just accepted my options, and they went away. Okay. I have received your messages. Great. So /R, hi, /R, tell Rosenblum. So that one is, if I press enter, the tell Rosenblum sticks, testing, but it goes away. And because you have, there's a keyboard shortcut for reply, and I want to say it's Shift-R. Yeah, so Shift-R will reply to the last person who has responded to you, and maybe that's in there because of that lack of stickiness in a conversation. But again, if you go into your IMs, you'll have everything in line here, and the tell Rosenblum is going to be sticky down here. gnargnar says those are on the key mappings, right? Let's find out. I hope so, because I keep hitting it accidentally anyway. Reply. Yeah, well, for me it's Shift-P because I'm using a different keyboard layout, but that's in the R position on a normal QWERTY keyboard. And so Shift-R is going to reply to the last person. And if no one has messaged you since you logged on, you're in fact going to get an error message that says someone has to tell you or message you before you can reply. Fair enough. Maybe you could just not say anything. Turn that error message off, please. Okay, so Little Redhead is currently getting the same experience as me. I think what that means is that if they do /K space, kinship is there, and then if they go to another tab and come back, that it is being sticky for Rosenblum. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, the space works. That's what I'm saying too.
Okay. Cool. So this is not to say that you could not be experiencing something different from me, but this is what I am experiencing right now. The channel, except for replies, are sticky per the tab that you are in. And replies are handled differently. They're given special affordance in the IMs tab, but the IMs tab is not required, and you can go into chat and turn off the IMs tab. I've never felt the need for that. If I'm doing messages with people, I find it useful to stack them up here, especially if I'm recruiting people to groups or whatever, and then when I know I'm done communicating with them, I've invited them or said, oh, sorry, we're full, then I can kill the conversation, and that takes it off my little mental to-do list. gnargnar is going to do more testing and see what their experience is. Awesome. Well, I hope it's working well for you. I hope what I'm experiencing is the intended and universal experience because it works well for me. It works well for my mental model for each tab to have a sticky chat channel that is attached to it, because the tabs for me are little silos of information and communication, and it makes a lot of sense for me to have that behavior that I am seeing. So I hope that's what you get too. Okay, let's come on in and take a look. So instead of instead of all this, we're going to go ahead and replace that with expand all, and we're also going to change the parent. So we can see the festival has a parent of this, so we will too. Barter Win parent. And we're going to have an expand all and a collapse all, unless it should be a collapse all and an expand all. Nope, expand all and collapse all. Great. Oh, those are going to be different. Oh, dtracker, are you using? Yes, dtracker has different ones for those as well. Let's grab those. Expand all button. Oh, and they also have some different ones for rolling over and pressed. Nice. Oh, and the endgame ones don't seem to be different there. Okay, great. Let's yoink those as well. So in images, we want to go ahead and paste that in. And then we can set the size, great, set the position. The set the position is going to be items get left, which is this TreeView. Oh, I'm in the wrong place. This thing. Set size, set position. Ah, that's just fixed. All right, that's fine. So they're 40 down. Let's be 40 down as well for right now. And then how far over? 20? Let's try 20. Actually, 40 might make more sense. Let's come back into the barter window. Yeah, let's try 30 over and be coincident with the start of the label. And then we know that this is going to be 30 plus 16 plus a little bit of a border. So let's try imagining that that's going to be this. And then we need that to be not the expand button, but the expand all button. And we're not going to worry about hover over right now. And we need the collapse all button as well. Oh, hilarious. Now we need the collapse all button. And this is going to be collapse all. Great. Let's just see if that works to start. And why is that mouse visible false? That doesn't seem great. Oh, because I was copying from not the expand all and collapse all, expand all. Yeah, so we're going to want something more like that. So blend mode, background, all that, position size, parent, great. But the expand all is going to be something more like this. So expand all, and we want self-expand all. So when the mouse enters, we'll do images expand all rollover. That's there. Yep. Mouse leave. We don't necessarily have a tooltip here. I assume I haven't brought that over yet, but hey, let's search for tooltip here. We have a set tooltip function. All right. Expand all set tooltip. Tooltip. What is this? That's a control. Sure. We'll just see if that does anything. And then we have enter, mouse leave, and that's expand all set background, and then mouse down, expand all pressed. But is there no mouse up? Why is there no mouse up? Seems like there should be. Mouse up. Yes. That's the next thing, and I didn't copy it. Okay. We have a expand all. Great. So mouse up, we're setting the images back, and then if the mouse cursor is still over the control, that is if you click there and then drag off and release, the natural effect should be to cancel. And then, so if we do a thing, we're going to cancel that and cancel that as well. So we don't actually want to do anything when we get clicked. We just want to turbine.shell.writeLine expand all exclamation point, and that should be enough to test. Let's go ahead and unload and reload and take a look at this. So we now have an expand all and collapse all buttons, but we're not getting any sort of interaction with this. Now, one might reasonably ask is, are we asking for mouse? Yeah, set mouse visible false. That's not right. So let's, in fact, it should be true by default. set. Yeah, I think we were saying pay no attention to the mouse and then registering a bunch of mouse handlers. There we go. So we're hovering over it and we get the hover over change. We click on it and we go off and nothing should happen. We click and we get expand all. So we're all set for this basic kind of interaction button. And in fact, we use this kind of concept often enough that it would be reasonable to extract that out into its own kind of a class, a subclassed button. I almost a question. Oh, hey, tooltip. It's there. Okay. Neat. So expand all, though it would be useful to have that translated. So to do translate this. All right. So if we come in, unload, reload, and we hover over this, we get expand all. Awesome. And when we click it, we get the text expand all. So we're going to go ahead and pause here. Now's a great time if you have any last minute questions, comments, concerns, get them into the chat while I do my little outgoing spiel here. But we've got something on the screen. It's interactable. It doesn't actually expand all yet, but that is actually a pretty short thing. It's like a one-liner once we're ready to do it. Collapse all, similarly very simple. That's going to give us the inspiration we need to come on in and get these pluses and minuses into the TreeView itself. Those are going to be a little bit more complicated because they have to expand a single node, so they have to know what node they're expanding or contracting. And the buttons themselves don't actually do anything in that case. We have an entire row that is clickable, and when that row is expanded or contracted, it needs to affect those buttons. So the buttons themselves aren't going to be doing the clicking. That's why the set mouse visible was false. They just look like they are. When you're over here, when you can click on anthems, so it's not the plus and minus buttons that's doing it in LOTRO, or in general perhaps. This is just a visual describing the expanded state of this node. So whenever the node is expanded or contracted, we want to hook into that and update the state of this plus minus button. But the plus minus is in fact not a button, it's just an image. It just looks like it's something to click on. You don't have to. And that's true across pretty much everything I can think of in the game. If you click on Journeyman, you get an expansion, click on Expertise, that expands. At no point do you need to click on these little pluses and minuses. You just can do that if it makes you feel good to aim for a small target. But you have the whole row to play with. And in the crafting window, that's true all the way to the right, well beyond the anvils that fill in for mastery. Cool. Okay, gnargnar says, I think my item tabs are fine. Now that I know what is normal, that is very helpful. Yeah, if that's just a thing about the world in general I have found, is that if your mental model, the closer it can match how things are likely to work, the less confusion and the less aggravation and the less bumping up against things you tend to have. So, you know, if my mental model for a bus stop is that the bus always stops here and the bus stops 5 meters that way, it's going to aggravate me because it didn't conform to my mental model. So the closer I can stand to where the bus driver is likely to hit, and if they're hitting it consistently, it just makes everything flow a little bit smoother because my expectations are being met, and I don't have that little grate of why did this not work the way I wanted it to work. So where possible, if you can build a mental model that matches reality, that's great. Where reality is inconsistent repeatedly, like if the bus were to always stop at a different position at the bus stop every time, not a lot you can do about that. So just build into your mental model that it's a little game, we don't know where it's going to stop, and maybe that helps. Just don't expect consistency from an inconsistent system. Cool. Well, gnargnar, I hope that helped. I hope you have a less aggravating time with your chat channels as you go forward. And feel free to report back here if things are going well. If they're not going well, maybe there's something else that we're missing. That being said, I think that is everything we are going to cover today. Thank you so much for joining me on this exploration of LOTRO plugins. I hope to see you all here next time, and until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.